with us.
Hey, great to be here. Hello, everyone.
Richard works with ambitious startups to drive smart, data-driven growth through great products, focusing on helping CEOs and teams to understand their goals, create clear processes, and drive profitable growth. Richard worked with large and small brands for many years, developing a strong track record of success. He focuses on designing and delivering great experiences across channels, driving customer acquisition and retention. He is great with numbers, and as I can testify right now, he is also great with people. And he believes that the value is measured in revenue, conversions, and happy users. Richard, good to have you. Richard is going to be talking about how to bring data to the beauty industry.
Yeah.
So, the floor is yours, man.
Okay, let me share my screen. A little present. Okay. So, you can see my screen. I'm going to take that as a yes, unless I get Horatio comes back in and tells me it's all gone terribly wrong. So yeah,
all good.
Oh, good, nice. Okay, so basically, yeah, I'm a Reveal user, which is the sister product to the Convert user. I hope I've got those right. And so I was speaking to Valentin. He asked me to talk about data in the beauty industry because I work for a company called MoxieLash, which you guys may or may not have heard of. MoxieLash essentially sells fake eyelashes, and that's, you can see them here, and it's a bit of an innovative product because it's a magnetic eyelash. So essentially what you do is the eyeliner that you can see our lovely model wearing contains iron oxide or iron little particles, tiny little particles in, and then the eyelash, which is here, has magnets in, so it just snaps onto it. So it's an interesting, innovative product which sort of sits at the crossroads of beauty and innovation. And basically, I think a lot of beauty products since the pandemic's come around have had to go online, and some of them are struggling with the difference when you can't see or touch a product, because obviously nowadays going to a store and putting on lipstick is probably not the best idea. And for some of us, it never was. But basically, yeah, there's a lot of beauty people trying to figure out the world of e-commerce now and how to navigate the data that comes with running an online store. On this talk, and you can ask like questions if I get too technical or if I'm not getting technical enough. But in this talk, I'll talk fairly broadly about the nature of data at the beginning and how you sort of move up the data maturity curve. And then I'll give a little overview of like a classic customer journey through an e-commerce website and what that looks like from a data perspective. And then the final third is basically how to ask good questions from your data, or if you're lucky enough to have an analyst, how to ask good questions from your data analyst or your digital analyst, or even the person you've like assigned to be the data person on the team. So this is MoxieLash.com. You can go check it out. I obviously do the data and analytics there, and you can also email me here, which isn't my MoxieLash email, it's my like personal email. All right, so let me jump in. I'll talk for probably like the whole presentation will hopefully take around 20 minutes from this point, because I'm aware we're running over a little bit, and then I'll leave some space for QA because there's quite a lot to get through. So I'll go through it relatively quickly, and if anything doesn't make sense, or if you want more info, you can stick it in the chat, or you can email me afterwards. So this is basically the cycle that companies go through. This is what it looks like from a data perspective, and I'm sure most of you do it now. But I'm not going to dwell too long on this because I've been listening to the talks as well, and I think most people have covered this cycle pretty well of how to do it and like the tools and practices that you can go through. But basically, I'm going to focus on this bit and this bit and how you can really set yourself up for actually getting the proper learnings from the measurement you're doing, from what you're building and the things that you're trying. I'll focus it basically on the two main parts of an e-commerce website, or I guess the three main parts. So the first main part is marketing and getting people onto your website. Then the second part is the website itself and the user experience of buying a product. And then the third part, which I won't focus on as much, is CRM and the impacts of your products. But I will touch on all of those parts in terms of how you measure them and the learnings that you get from them and how you use that to build better marketing campaigns, upgrade your website, or adjust your products. So this is a broad outline, as I said, of analytics and what analytics can do for your company and what most people use analytics for. I'm going to try and, as I mentioned, keep it quite high level, and I can share this around afterwards, because the basic hope is that I give some little nuggets of ideas that you can take away and research more. So if you're not doing some of these 8 areas, you can try and think about how you can apply them to your own business. So the first one is manage your goals. A little bit like if you hire a personal trainer, or if you're trying to get better at sport, if you don't have a specific goal, analytics won't be very good for you. Because I've seen it in a lot of companies where they just are like, let's bring data into the company, let's be data driven, but they don't really have a direction they want to go in. And that's where analytics will start to struggle. Analytics works best if you're like, we want to sell 200 units, we want our conversion rate to be 3%. And then analytics can really help you support, are you hitting that goal or are you missing it? It will help you understand your customers. It will help you understand the performance of your website, of your marketing campaign, and then it will help you generate ideas of how you can better serve your customers, have better performance, which eventually leads to you hitting your goals. It will also, if you're sort of doing all this stuff correctly, you're starting to give the staff and the people that work for you more accurate feedback on what's working and what's not working. So a little bit like a sports coach or a personal trainer, they'll be like, this is what you're doing, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And then it will start to help you identify areas for helping your staff grow as well as your companies grow and your customers be a bit more happy. Then obviously, once you understand your customers and you're generating ideas, it will help you get more customers. It will help you uncover problems that you can deal with that will improve your performance. And then it will help you prioritize projects, because this is kind of the main goal of an analytics program. It's a bold statement, but basically when you hire an analyst, you're like, I have these goals and I have a list of 10 ideas and I don't know which idea to go with because I don't know what's working and what's not working. So then I won't go through the tools and ways you do it, but this is a big part of an analytics program is, if I have $100, where should I spend that $100? If I have 4 hours spare, where should I spend that 4 hours so I get the maximum return on what I'm doing? And this is sort of the stages you will go through. It's a very high level one, but the stages you will go through when you start to build your analytics program, you'll be down here. And then at the end, when you're Amazon, you'll be all up here. So when you start, you basically will ask questions like, how many people visit my site? How much am I spending on Facebook? How many people opening emails? And that's just generally getting data. And then basically you'll start to want reporting on it, because this is in MoxieLash, for example, they had a lot of products, but obviously because there's no physical store, and I know there's been a lot of good talks on this, it's difficult to get customer feedback immediately. And what you'll need is a mixture of quantitative reports, which is like who's buying which eyelash, which of our products is the most popular. And then you can start to build reports, which is qualitative reports, which is like, we've interviewed some customers, this is a report into what they've said. And then once you start to get your reports enough, people generally like, oh, well, these reports are great, I want to see it on an ongoing basis. That's when you move up into dashboards, and basically you start to see trends and you start to see daily insights into how many people are visiting your site, what products are they purchasing, how many people are coming back and purchasing. Because on e-commerce sites, this is important, especially if you have a subscription business. So lots of people buy like beauty boxes nowadays, and they have subscriptions to get sent like different beauty things, or that razor company that sends you a box every month. And in beauty, people are notoriously fickle in the beauty industry because they won't be brand loyal for very long, because they're always trying new things, because there's a lot of options out there in beauty, and there's very low cost to switching. Because if you think about it, one lipstick or one type of eyeliner is quite similar to another. So then you can start to attribute a model behavior. So attribution basically means where is my traffic coming from, and where is my money coming from, and what's the sort of journey people take to get there. And modeling comes into, it's not beauty modeling, it's doing actual data modeling, which is trying to start to predict what's going to happen if you put another £100 in Facebook versus Google. And then basically once you have your models, you can say, okay, well, we know that this type of customer is more likely to love our brand because you have checked out all their attributes. You'll be like, well, they need to be in this income stream, people in this geography like our brand more, people that come from this type of campaign like our brand a bit more. So this, and I'll cover this a bit later, this is fairly basic numbers. This is where you start to put a bit more insight into it and what's causing people to buy, what's causing people not to buy. And then what you can do is scenario planning, which is the hardest bit of all, which is where you can start to say, if we launch this new product, we will get this many sales and this type of person will be likely to buy. This is what's known as spending your money on paper. Because if you are down here and you're just getting reporting, you need to spend the money in order to see what happens. And that's basically a very expensive way of doing it, and quite a slow way of doing it. But then what can happen is you can start to model out, once you have your model to show what's impacting what, you can start to spend your money on paper and be like, okay, well, we'll launch this kind of product because it's had the best feedback from this group, and we'll launch it with a 10% discount because that gives us the most revenue and volume. So that's basically what you want to do with your program. So if you think about the problems you're trying to solve, like understanding your customers, understanding your performance, you need to know who your customers are, know your performance. Then you can start to dig into what's causing it. And then you can try and adjust it without having to spend all your time and money beforehand. Okay. So this is a classic customer analytics funnel. Now we're moving a bit more into the data journey and what it looks like on the ground. There won't be many numbers in this presentation, and there won't be many like tools. So it's quite high level just to try and spark some things about how you construct your own analytics program, or how you can use numbers to try and drive performance. So some of the key areas you'll look at is products. Obviously, beauty is very product related because very few brands only sell one type. Most brands will sell 10 or 20 different products. Then obviously this is similar to everyone. So it's very universal, your cart, your checkout flow, people actually buying, understanding the people that are buying and understanding the marketing. And what you do from a data perspective is you'll split it up into its component parts. So this is a basic way that I like to do it. Is paid, earned, and owned. You have the Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that. Then you have earned, which is like Cosmopolitan writing about you, which can be great, or some YouTube influencer writing about you because they really love your product. And then organic search, natural visits, and a bit of paid, bit of PR. And then owned is if you have an app. Very unusual in the beauty industry for people to have an app, but you might have email. Well, you definitely should be capturing emails and doing CRM. So you'd start to understand the cause and impact of all of these things. You'll start off with some dashboards, reporting on it, then you roll it up, then you understand the interplay between them. and what their impact is on customers' behavior. So lots of people will land on your homepage or your like shop now page, then they'll move through your site, some sort of combination of a category page, like this is all our eyeliners, or this is all our eyelashes, then a specific product. Maybe they'll focus a bit on the company, or maybe they'll log in. This isn't huge in the beauty industry. You don't get many logins unless you're selling a subscription, because it tends to be quite low cost. So people will just come and buy and leave. They won't tend to stick around and set up an account unless you have an absolutely mammoth offering like Sephora. Most companies don't get accounts, but it's still something you can offer if you have a very diverse offering. You're expecting a high retention rate. Then they'll move through one of these top levels. They'll add to cart, they'll check out, they'll read your blog, or they'll sign up to a newsletter, or they'll do one of these things, which is sort of the step before conversion. And then they'll hopefully buy from you, then they'll hopefully become loyal, then they'll hopefully become an ambassador. And so this is very generic. I'm sure most of you have seen this. So what you want to do is grade this. This is then where the analytics comes in, where it starts to understand performance. Once you have your dashboards built up, so like Google Ads gives you numbers, Facebook gives you numbers, affiliate platforms, like there's Google Search Console, all of these things. I switched email over here just to test you, but all of your tools will give you numbers. And what you can do is establish a benchmark or a baseline and be like, is this performing how I expected? Can I make this number go up? Is this performing above expectations and driving really good traffic, or is it struggling? So it might be display works really well, but we're struggling on Facebook. And then you can start to come up with hypotheses of how to build it. And then obviously you have Shopify or Magento or GA, and this is where you can start to test and learn. So you can be like, okay, well, this is bad. So you can use a tool like the OmniConvert tool, so the reveal tool, to start getting insights into how you're performing. Are people purchasing? Are they staying loyal? And then you can come up with a score, because what you're always trying to do is figure out, where should I be spending my time and effort? And if you don't have something that breaks it out like this, from an analytics perspective, it gets a bit overwhelming, because as we'll see in the final part of the prezzo, you'll be trying to ask a question that's too broad for someone to answer. So it's always better to stick to a specific question and do it one by one by one. And you can use this to sort of, with your marketing team or your website team or the exec team, you can be like, okay, so we know this is doing bad. What have we done this week? Or should we do a 2-week sprint to try and understand our users, understand if it's the ads that we're showing or the people we're showing them to, or the landing page? Because then you can start to link it together. You can say, well, social ads isn't working because they're going to a bad landing page, or this product isn't working because people aren't repurchasing it. So maybe we're going to have to take this product off the market. Because a lot of things, especially in beauty, they look good, people will buy them, but then they won't do what the person thinks, so they'll never buy it again. And so it can appear to be doing well in the purchase level, but then when you link it to loyalty, it can actually be doing badly. And so in the next part, I'll show you how to dig into this a bit more. Then obviously you just get like different things you can do at each stage. So you A/B test your checkout flow, you focus on which products to put at the top of the home page. You can check which influencers are working or not working by giving them little codes or just seeing how they refer. And then you can test your loyalty program, like with an RFM model. You can see, is it actually impacting how much revenue people are giving you, how many times they purchase and how frequently. So you can use the tools to try and give you some insights, break your like journey down in this way or whatever way works for you, and then focus on a specific bit and try and turn it from red to orange to green. So this is just a quick way. Let me skip back. There's been a few step changes in analytics. So when digital first came out, a lot of it was page and hit driven. So people would just look at how many hits they got or how many products they purchased. Whereas this is like session driven. So a lot of people talk about sessions and how many, like, what's their conversion rate for a session? How many sessions did like emails drive? And that's when you're analyzing it from a session perspective, you'll look at something like this and you'll tend to assume people move in a linear pattern. But it's not super true. And now in the last few years, what people are doing, especially with the rise of apps, people do this a lot. And on websites, people are starting to do it a lot more, is look at people from a user level. So they'll start to group the tools together a bit, group the stages together a bit and be like, do more people hear about, if you hear about us through paid media, is that a good experience? If you hear about us from another website, is that a good experience? And then what they try and do, this is as you move up the maturity curve. So once you've got your like journey figured out and scored, you can start to be like, how many times do you need to become aware of us before you buy from us? And then you can be like, if you go straight to our website, how's that experience? If you Google us, how's that experience? If you ask your friends about us, how's that experience? If you look at us on Amazon, how's that experience? Because you need different numbers and you need different like goals and objectives to each one. So here you just need to be at the top of the page. And here you need your friends to say, this is amazing. And on Amazon, you need to have a good rating. And for people, because what Amazon will do and things like that is they'll put obviously competitors next to you with a better rating, which will hurt you. Because people often will hear about you and they won't buy immediately. They'll need to come back. So you can also chase them around via paid ads again, which we've all seen. Then obviously they buy something. What's that like? And then you need to figure out between the first sale and the second sale, how many days is it? How many times do you need to become aware of our company again before you buy again? And is that through paid media? Is that through our CRM program? Oh, sorry, is that for, I call like email CRM, which I probably shouldn't because I have it here. Is this through like our email or SMS program? And then the final one is like, you might buy once or twice if you're not sure about the product. But if you're going to become an ambassador, like a cheerleader for the brand, the product needs to be amazing and the customer like experience needs to be great. So if you contact support or if you're trying to find a replacement part for your product because it's broken, that needs to be amazing. So then you need to figure out how good are our products. Because I've seen a lot of websites turn it around or lose it because they're not able to accept sort of what the numbers are showing them, that their products just aren't good enough to cause people to rebuy on their own, or their CRM and support teams just aren't making people ambassadors enough. Because this is where you really get in the later stages of maturity, the growth. Because you can grow pretty well with this, and if you're like not doing so much volume, you can do a lot through paid media and Google Ads. But if you want to like take the next step from a startup to like a big company, your products need to be good enough that like they'll enable you to scale, because this is one of the most important things. Also one of the hardest things to tell from a data perspective. So a lot of people will ignore it. You need, that's where your qualitative customer research, I heard some great talks on it today, comes in. You need to figure out if your products are actually great, as well as the like conversion journey. Okay, this is another way that you can map this and your analytics efforts. So it's not so much around the customer journey and whether or not you choose to look at a customer journey in terms of a single session or visit, or if you want to look at it across the lifetime of a user. This is more just how well are you becoming data driven? Do you have a data strategy beyond like setting up Google Analytics? Do you have KPIs that everyone in the company understands and follows? This is like, how well is your Google Analytics set up, which you definitely do need to do, especially this is the bottom of the maturity curve. Then obviously, how well do you understand what's happening? Does everyone in the company speak the same language? If you ask people, what's our conversion rate? What's our best-selling product? What's our retention rate? Would they actually know? And then how well do you understand your customers, your attribution? This is how you start moving up the maturity curve. So this is where you're like starting to do some attribution and some modeling here. It's like, well, we know this kind of customer will stick around because they have these attributes, or we know that Facebook people won't convert, but they'll come back later via organic search. I've called it paid media, but it's actually marketing. And you can use these boxes to sort of basically, as you go from left to right and from top to bottom, is you moving up the maturity curve. And then at the bottom, you can start to forecast performance really well. And you can start to allocate resource, as we said, before something's happened. So you can say, we know this is a great product. We know this kind of customer would love it if we did X. So we're going to do this campaign, and this is what we can see out the back of it. So this is how much stock we should buy. This is how much we should put time in to optimize that web page. And then this is how much like we should put in to support it via email once it's gone live. So this is basically, once you have your journeys mapped out and you understand the component parts, you can then start to apply this model. So this is basically what I do when I go into a company, is figure out where they are on the maturity curve and then try and push these obviously from red to green. So the final part, if you do get an analyst, or you're like, okay, so I really want someone to tell me how well I'm doing. Generally, people ask questions that are difficult for an analyst to answer, because data analysts have a specific way of thinking that's sometimes different from how like the business or the marketing people think. And when they ask a question, it's difficult for the analyst to provide a good response. And then you see people like spooling round and round and round, or they get stuck in the like conundrum of let's just test everything without a strategy, and we'll assume as long as we're A/B testing, we're making progress, which often works on a short term, but it's not long-term growth. So you want to avoid questions like, what are people doing on my website? What are the key journeys on my website? What's working, what's not working? Because they're so big and they're so vague. I often tell people when they ask for like, what's the top journey, or what are the journeys through my website? What you're asking them to do is like figure out a combination of 50 variables, like all the pages you have. Whereas everything you've ever heard or written or read is just a different combination of 26 letters. So like the alphabet, obviously. So there's so many combinations. What normally gets pumped back is the same answer for everything. You almost already will know it. It will basically be people going from your paid ads to your homepage, or people going from your paid ads to your most popular product, and then either buying or not buying. That's like the journey. That's the answer that will always come. You're like, what's working, what's not working? And it'd be like, well, 50% of people are adding to cart, but you don't have much actionable insight from that. And a lot of it is because people don't have KPIs, and they don't have benchmarks, and they don't have specific reports to build on. So they ask very generic questions. It's a bit like if I was to say to you guys, tell me something about London, which is where I'm from, that I don't know, but I want to know. That's essentially what people ask analysts a lot, is tell me something about my website, or tell me something about my marketing that I don't know, but I want to know. But they don't tell the analyst what they know or what they want to know in a specific way. So this is sort of how you would do it, or how I think is how I've got good results in the past. You give them the situation, bit of background, like currently our KPI is to build revenue. And then you say, our objective is to increase the transaction conversion rate from mobile sessions landing on our homepage. And the reason you do this is because all of the things in capitals to the analyst is like a variable. So you're like, I want this to go up. I want transactions to go up, and I want the transaction conversion rate to go up from mobile sessions that land on our homepage. So it's an incredibly specific question. And then the analyst doesn't have to worry about this. If you just went, how do I increase my revenue? They'll try and analyze the entire world, and they'll just get stuck. And so they'll give you a very high level answer like, increase your click-through rate on Facebook. Stop spending so much money to get Facebook traffic, which is accurate, but also entirely unhelpful. So the more specific you are, the more likely you are to get a helpful response. And then tell them to do two things. One, tell them to find the answer, and then tell them to give you a solution. So basically be like, go figure out what's not working, then tell me what you think will fix it. Because if they just tell you what's not working, they'll probably tell you what you already know. You'll want to like find the answer in a measurable way, then tell me what you would recommend. Try and get them to predict what will increase it. And then what you do, which is like a little cheat to getting super helpful things, is tell them what you think is the issue. Because marketers and product managers and e-commerce managers, they all have a rough idea of what the problem is. And if you put your analyst in a direction, you'll get an even quicker answer, which is basically what people want. So you can be like, the products we show them on our homepage aren't relevant to the advert that brought them there. Or you can say, the checkout flow breaks on some mobiles. We've heard some customers talking about that. Because then that's a very specific thing that they can check within minutes. Whereas if you just say this to them, they'll take days and come back with nothing. So they can check if it's right or wrong, which is a lot easier than checking if something works or doesn't work. Because everything can always be improved. Your click-through rate can always be improved. Your conversion rate can always be improved. But if you're like, we think the checkout flow breaks on some mobiles, they can test that specifically. They can test the exact products people are buying and if it's the same as the products they're seeing on the ads. Or they can test different types of ads, which makes it much quicker for them. And then you can say, tell me how to give the answer back. Because sometimes an analyst will think that someone wants a huge PowerPoint when they just want a quick number. Or sometimes your analyst will think you want a quick number when you want a huge PowerPoint. So be like, just, if it's like, increase the transaction rate, you'd say, what is the transaction rate? And I'll cover this off next, but you need to tell them what you're expecting back from them. Otherwise, they'll have to guess what you want. And that takes time and stress. And that's when you have analysts leave. So the types of change. This is how you can think about it as well. In your mind, when you're starting to brief the analyst, you can be like, do I want to slowly optimize my conversion rate? Which is what a lot of us are trying to do. It's like, I have a website, I have 100 people landing, 2.5 of them convert. I want that number to be 3.5, and I'm going to run some tests until it's 3.5. Or you can be like, I want a step change, which is basically where you're like, I'm convinced that the checkout flow breaks for some people, or I'm convinced that the checkout flow asks for too much information, so people bounce off it. So find out where people bounce off. And then once we fix that, it will just pump up, but it won't keep going up. And then this is what people really want, the hockey stick, where they're like, find a problem on my website that if we solve, it will compoundingly just keep driving new, more money, or it will keep making our conversion rate go up. And this is actually possible. It's just much harder. It's like winning at SEO. If you can start winning at SEO and keep a focus on what people want, like improve the quality of our content, or set us up a process to check the quality of our content so we get more SEO, is an example of something we are trying to compoundedly make it go up. Or improve our RFM models so we get more from our loyalty, which will make everything compoundingly go up, because it will be incremental change. It will basically accumulate, because then every new customer you get will buy slightly more, and all of your existing customers will buy slightly more. So over time, it will accumulate upwards. So try and bear in mind the exact nature of what you're expecting to see happen to your curve when you're asking an analyst to solve a problem, because it will affect how you talk to them. Because this is like, create a process for me, or help me improve this process. This is like, help me fix a problem. And this is like, give me feedback on the changes I'm making. Now, this is where we get to the slightly philosophical nature of analytics.
Richard, just a second. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We should be wrapping up in a couple of minutes.
Okay, I can skip to the Q&A.
If you want, it's up to you. But we should.
We should be there. Okay. Well, I'll go for it quick then. This is basically the levels of a question. So if you want data, ask a what question. If you want information, ask a why. So like, what's my conversion rate? Why do you think it's like this? If you want conclusions, ask us, tell them our hypothesis. If you want recommendations, give them your objective. So remember the type of, the way you're speaking to your analyst, depending on what you want, give them one of these. Oh, this is quite long. I'm going to skip through this. I've gone over time again. You can have a look at this. This is kind of it. Oh, this is the final one. This is traps to avoid. The hippo. If you see this in your company, you know your data's in trouble. Where the highest paid person's opinion counts for everything. That's a struggle with data. You'll struggle to be data driven if the highest paid person's opinion carries the day. Beware of a single answer. It's like the Donald Trump effect. Humans love like the meaning of life being 42, whereas basically there's often lots of answers to a single question. So you have to, if people are saying a single answer will definitely solve everything, this is probably inaccurate. And then the final thing is that change is easy. You have to remember that knowing a problem isn't the same as solving a problem. So if you're trying to get your data department to solve problems, you're going to struggle because they're thinking that they're just going to identify a problem. So avoid any of these traps. And that's it. Now I'm at the end.
All right. Thank you. That was such an insightful presentation. Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Did we get any questions or no? Is it time to wrap up?
It should be time to wrap up because we did go a little bit. Yeah. But if anybody wants to ask a question, then I will surely direct all questions from the audience to you, Richard. So if anybody wants to ask anything, please write it in the comments, and we will get back with an answer from
Richard. And we can share the deck as well, so there's quite a lot in there.
Yes, exactly. After we're done with the summit, we're gonna make a big, beautiful folder with all the presentations, and we're gonna send them to everyone.
All right, perfect. Well, shall I sign off?
I'm gonna end the broadcast. So thank you.
You're gonna boot me out. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Richard. And everybody will be right back with Elise Connors from HappyCog, who will be talking about using data you already have to win the customers that you don't. Thanks a lot, and see you in a bit.